You ever read the book Brave New World?
No, I haven't.
That's what we're in.
That's what we're in.
Brave New World is no marriage.
Mm.
Everybody's equal, except some are more equal than others. But birth, as I just had my great grandson born the last month. It's all artificial. There's no birth, as we know, it was illegal. And that was written in 1932, or published just when I got it.
Yeah.
1930, I didn't get it in 1932, but a fellow named Aldous Huxley, Aldous, A-L-D-O-U-S, Huxley, and he predicted that there'd be free sex, there'd be no more marriage, there'd be no more births as we know, there'd be just get to work in a little laboratory and that's just all you want. So many plumbers in Toko, so you breed 10, you know.
Yeah. So was that...
That's the base of the book. But
was that his wish to happen, or he just saw society going that way?
That's what he saw, the way society would go.
Okay. So you've given me a really big overview of your life, and so I want to get into culture, and you kind of touched on it a bit, but what was the culture like that you grew up in? So the traditional values.
Sure. Well,
what was Australia like growing up?
Well, motor cars weren't around, right? So families used to visit one another. On Saturday nights, we had my sister played the piano, the elder one, and we had a piano, and my aunties, or uncle, or auntie, mainly aunties, their family would come Saturday night, and we'd have to sit around and talk, and there was no television and no radio talking, and sing around the piano, and that was the life. And the Sunday, as life developed, like I didn't buy a motor car, or we didn't buy a motor car until I was married. I was married in 1943. We bought a motor car in 1953. I was 30 years of age before we bought a motor car.
Yeah, and I had my first motor car at 17.
No,
very different time.
Well, matter of fact, my son, I wouldn't let my son buy a car. Said, and his mother agreed. When I say I, it was we. And we made an arrangement that with our children, somebody had to say no. Because you break a kid's heart. A little kid, he wants something, and it's impossible to let them have it. Or it's very unwise to let them have it. So somebody's got to say no. Well, they've got to have somebody to go to cry on their shoulder. So it was decided I'd have to be the one who said no. And then they go to their mother.
Well, that's kind of the general family unit, isn't it? That the father of the household is a bit, if we're like a bit more authoritarian. Like they've got the authority in the household. They've got the boundaries, and the mother is very much the caregiver.
That's right.
The emotional support.
There's got to have somebody to sympathise with them, you know, and that's many a time I've had to say no. I remember well the day when I was called a halt to it. Paul had been in the army, and he never brought a girl home. He was in he did weightlifting. He taught the cadet. He was a cadet.
Yeah.
In the Air Force. He said Bankstown. He said drive him from Maryland down to Bankstown Airport every week, you know, and because there's no transport around.
Yeah.
He's when weightlifting because he wanted to get in the police force. So he had in the garage. He
hard.
put some weightlifting gear in there. He was in he did jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
And then he wanted to do, when skin diving came out, and I said, and this is the respect they ask. He didn't just go.
Just go
And
do it.
I said, well, if you want to do skin dive, I suggest you go to a lesson, like learn.
Give it a go.
Learn to somebody. Yeah. So he did, and he didn't. Oh, God, and he loved it. And then he wanted to join the rifle club. I said, oh, gee, don't know about that. So I was playing golf at the time. It was Saturday, and the rifle clubs were at Liverpool on a Saturday. So I said, I'll team up. Took him up, and they welcomed him with open arms. Yeah. And he just brought a rifle home, and he learned how to use it. The bolt was never in the same room as the rifle.
As the rifle, yeah.
Then, because when he came out, so I came home one night, he wanted to join the army. Oh, jeez. So he loved that life. That's right. So if that's what you want, mate, yeah, as far as it. But then when he came out of the army, he was a parachutist by this time. He came home one night, he had this, on leave, and he had this parachute on his arm, and I'm not that dumb. I saw it and I said, what's all that about? He said, well, I didn't want to tell you, so I thought you should worry, you know. You're telling me. So anyhow, when he came out of the army, he was waiting for release out of the army. He wouldn't get married while he was in the army. But finally, he met a girl, one of the local girls was in the CYO. That's the Catholic Young People's Dance out. He finally brought a girl home, and anyhow that's why he came out of the army. And my wife said to me, Paul's going to come and ask you something, and I want you to say no. I said, yeah, what's that? So she said, well, one of his mates in the army lives in Geelong in Victoria, and he's getting married on Saturday week or whatever it was, and he was like Paul's one of his mates who wanted to go. I said, yeah. She said, well, he wants to borrow the car to drive down.
Drive down to Melbourne, yeah.
Melbourne. I said, well, so she said, well, I don't. I said, why not? She said, it's to Melbourne. I said, he's a parachutist in the army.
So you're worried about him.
So I said, oh, look, I've had to say no all my life. He's a big boy now. He's got big boy's pants on now. I said, so if you don't want to go, I don't care.
Yeah.
I say, yeah. But you tell him. He didn't go. She must have told him. But that's family.
Yeah, it's working together.
But that's how we worked with the kids and that, because they'd go to the mother and I used to feel so terrible sometimes. Daddy said, I can't do that. Yeah.
I hope when I have my dad on and we can talk about how I was as a child. 'Cause I'm pretty sure we did the exact same things.
Well, that's the point. It's family.
It's family.
I'll tell you, marriage is the greatest invention. I wish you all the happiness. And your mother and father, I used to say to your mother, listen, you tell Steve, if he doesn't treat you right, I'll take over. She's a good sport. Yeah.
In that Australian culture, was church much of a big thing in the early Australian culture, or?
No, when I went to Christian Brothers Lewisham, well, my mother, she wasn't a Catholic. But she saw we went to church every Sunday, and every holy day. But they did, yes.
And do you think that shaped Australia much at all? Do you think it had an impact?
Anything that makes you stop and think. When people say, well, whatever, like, I got very angry, your mother will tell you this. When I went out to Christmas, we put a Christmas show on here, you know. So I went to the Christmas church for the day.
Yeah.
And all I could see was, and I've got a photograph on my phone here, cancel Christmas.
Oh.
Shops. I went to Winston Hills. You couldn't buy a shirt.
Mm.
As a matter of fact, last year you couldn't buy it. It was very difficult to buy a Christmas card with the theme of the birth of Christ.
Wow. Yeah.
They are trying to eliminate us.
So, how much has Australia changed over the years in terms of its cultural values?
Wouldn't know it. Different country. I've never known it. Wouldn't know the country that I was grew up. The people today, and I'm not the only one. I go to my club and I meet with fellas every Friday night. They all say the same. Yeah, people today will never know the life that we led. We come out, we went out at night time. You came home, and your mother, my mother used to sleep in the front room, and your key was in the front door all day long. And the last one in takes the key, and but your mother used to, if you got a bit late, you think, sneak in, but no chance, Mum, wake up like that as soon as you walk in the door.
Yeah.
Because that's a mother's instinct.
Yeah.
No, they will never know honesty, loyalty.
Loyalty is a big one.
Loyalty, your family and your mates, like, stick together. Like, that's where the army was great. Those blokes, but they make friends for life. Paul's got his greatest mate, but the one he went through the army with. My elder brother, he and his mate, we used to get around together because we're all in the one age.
Yeah.
But they were a year older than me. They joined the army together. Their army numbers were running numbers. They went up and joined the army together. They stuck all their life. And they made mateships. It's loyalty to one another.
Yeah, mateship is something that
and
we always talked about.
Respect for your own family. Respect for yourself.
When I was in the army, I found that the army culture I grew up hearing about is very different to the one that I experienced.
Absolutely.
Men would take the opportunity when we would go away for a weekend, because we were reservists. We did 1 day a week, 1 weekend a month, 1 fortnight a year. When they would go away from families and stuff, it was their holiday from their family, and they would do obscene things with people, the locals, the towns that we were in, and we're talking married guys with kids, and it was something that I found very sad personally that happened in our army. I mean, you always hear about how Australians were always a bit of a scallywag kind of bunch of people, but I think when crunch time came to it, we were always ready to jump in and do the job, but we always did it in a way that we helped each other and respected each other.
Absolutely, stuck by your mates.
Stuck by your mates.
That's what I say. Like in the army, that's where it's. But even when you were younger, when we was kids, we used to play. And I was crying. I don't know. You hear them yelling at one another, and there's the way they speak to one another. So you got this respect for your friends and your family, mostly your family. Gee.
Yeah.
But they'll never know respect for the teacher. I can't believe what they talk about.
Respect for the teacher is a very big one. I've worked in a few schools, and that's something I noticed a lot was the respect that the students had for the teachers. Zero to none. And you could tell that the teachers, I mean, you can see it in our education system right now, that teachers are leaving the profession in rates that we've never seen before.
I cannot understand how anybody can be a teacher, because you got no leadership at the top, they got no support. So what I read about how when Paul had to go overseas, work fit. They offered him 2 countries, either Thailand or USA. So he had enough sense to check the officers who'd been in USA, was it? And they said to him, and I'm talking about 1988, 89, they said to him, "You got any kids going to school?" I said, "Yeah." So they go to America. So that's why I ended up taking Thailand. And now we're about 20 years behind America. Now we're the same as America.
Yeah.
And I can't, and the school, I can't understand teachers because they don't get the support of the government. They got, I mean, a teacher chastises a kid, and the parents come up and abuse them.
Yeah, you yelled at my kid.
The teacher's been chastised or even dismissed.
Yeah, there's no that support for the teachers in
I don't know
terms
how
of
they do it. I know how they do it.
Running a classroom.
And the other thing is, they're too young. Gosh, they're only kids themselves.
I mean, the teachers I looked up to in the profession were the ones with that older style. They've been in the profession 40 odd years, and you could tell they knew the students. They knew how to work the students. They had the respect of the students, and they were the guys and girls who I looked up to most in those professions, because they really knew their way around it, because they've seen it all before, right? They've been in it.
I didn't have, so I went to Catholic schools. But I went to public school for that. When I was 14, I went to the night school. They were male teachers, they were civilian teachers. And I went to tech. I suppose night school, I suppose I spent 9 years at night schools. So at tech you had lecturers with like a higher class TAFE type thing. And you had all the respect in the world from. You know, and I remember one lecture, look, you go to work all day, you've probably been through it yourself, and you're tired, you've had a bad day, but you've got to go and you've got to turn on to what the lecture's about. And I remember one night, blokes a bit slovenly, and this Jack Anderson was the lecturer, and he was very enthusiastic type of teacher. And he said, "Sit up and take notice." He said, because a lazy attitude, lolling around on a lazy mind, a lazy attitude's a lazy mind. And that is true.
Yeah. I think that's where we're at in this, I guess, in this rhyme of, like they say, history doesn't repeat, it rhymes, and you see a cycle of strong men create good times create weak men create hard times, and that cycle then repeats and goes through. And I think that's where we're currently at now, is that the weak men, because we've abdicated our responsibilities as men in our society, that we haven't.
It's always somebody else's fault.
No one takes responsibility, and if you make a promise, you don't need to keep it anymore. Our politicians are very good at doing that.
Look at your rugby league, your footballers. They're signing contracts, and they're signing contracts with another one to play with them next. Well, I was only talking to my daughter when she rang this morning. Don't know how it came up, but it came about something about responsibility, and quoted a few months ago, a commercial aeroplane got caught in an air pocket and dropped 400 feet or 800 feet, whatever. The people in the plane are suing the airline company. So, what for? Well, the airline company didn't make that pocket.
How do you environmental factors there?
You went on the plane. You know there's danger on the plane. Some people won't go on the plane.
That's right.
But there's dangers on it. So you take it.
Well, that's why
accept-
they get
you
paid
accept-
as
yeah.
well.
Yeah, anyhow.
I mean, there's such a thing as danger money, and people do, and this is where the gender pay gap kind of comes in, is because most men will do more dangerous jobs, and with dangerous jobs you get danger money.
Well,
and
that's
where the big difference is.
Well, that's
when you're taking those.
But now the point was, I never asked for a rise in the whole of my working life.
Mm.
Any rise I got, I was given.
Mm.
These people, they want a rise and say, well, what are you going to do for the rise you're given?
Mm.
Well, I want more money, but how's that going to help this company?
Yeah.
What are you going to do for this company to justify? They think just because they're working there, they're doing you a favour.
Yeah.
It's changed, the wheel's changed, you respect it.
Mm. When I so this is something that me and my co-hosts have talked about on the show a lot. Has that the company we currently work for? He's had a lot of young blokes come through, and they work to the bare minimum. Unless they need the money, then they'll draw out the work, so they get paid more. But then they'll also go to the boss and go, we want more money. And so when I was talking about actually, because I started out very intermittently with the job, and then worked into a more full-time position. And so when it came to that time where I'm working hard, we just lost blokes, and I said, I did go to the boss with, I need a pay rise, and I told him, these are the things I've been doing, I'm working for. I had to prove to him, in my eyes, I had to prove to him that that I was worth it. And I don't think people do that anymore. They don't better themselves, or they don't feel the need to prove that they are worth the extra pay or anything like that.
Well, I tell you, I worked for 3 very successful self-made men, and hard work, and you'll find they're fair. The worst thing you could do to them is tell them a lie. You never tell them a second lie, because you wasn't there with them. You could disagree with them, but don't tell them a lie. That was emphatic. There was no second chance. And the other thing was, if the blokes went in for a rise, or anybody went for a rise, and they used the analogy of Tom Jones getting more than him, that was the end of the discussion. Their philosophical argument is, if you want to rise, if you can't justify yourself what that rise, how that rise will benefit the company, don't come in. So I've got different opinions. People like me, and we all know this, the fellows I mix with would say the same thing. We'd never last 5 minutes as a boss these days. You respect a job, because when I was made a foreman at 21 years of age, I'd have never been, if there hadn't have been a war, but there was just no bloody men. So I was made a foreman.
Yeah.
And the owner of the place said to me, when you're selecting employees, have a look. Is their hair combed? Is their shirt clean? Shoes shiny? Because he said, are they shaven? I'm not talking about your characteristic. I mean,
unkept.
Unkept.
Not just
said,
letting it go.
The hair not done. Because if they don't look after their own things, it costs nothing. They're not going to look after your job. You don't want it. And I worked on that all my life. And I do that when I came into sport. And when I gave up playing, I became a selector. I use the same process. If that bloke on that field was slobby with his dress and all that, I didn't want to know him.
Yeah. One of the things I grew up with in the army was you made your bed. Because once you've made your bed, That's you've
You made the bed, you lay on it.
I've made the bed, but it's a task that I've completed for the day. So I'm already starting the day off with a win, and so that sets you up for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Because you got to work hard at your day to get through and whatnot. So, so what I want to ask you is, over the years, what do you think has impacted the Australian culture the most, from where we've been with the tradition of values and how we looked after each other to where we are right now with the, respect going out the window? What do you think has contributed? What have you seen contribute to that the most?
Unrestricted immigration.
Mm-hmm.
Unrestricted, no test. He used to come to Australia, everybody, because aeroplanes made a big difference, but in my early days, all movement, transport was shipping.
Yeah.
A cruise ship came in the harbour, nobody hopped off that boat until they was tested by the doctor, and you had a quarantine sitting on North Head. And if you were detected with some illness, up you went up to the quarantine, no more. And if the undesirable came to the country, this business of censorship on speech is the worst thing that ever happened. And I remember one very memorable occasion. I didn't agree with it, but it happened. This woman came to Australia, and they didn't want her in. There's some controversy about her in England. She's some prominent person. So they didn't want her here, so they used to give them a language, they give them a test. You don't have to speak English to go to the university even. So they gave her a test, and some in Turkey or something, she failed, and sorry, home you go. They wouldn't do that now.
I think the test to get your citizenship here in Australia is something I don't think even Australians will be able to pass.
Well,
I think that they're letting people in on staying visas, but to become an actual Australian citizen, I think it is.
But they let them into the country. They say,
that's right. It means nothing right now. The whole citizenship
thing. Let's just
thing.
say it's unrestricted immigration has ruined this country. No risk. No,
and that whole wanting to become a citizen was, I think, an actual crucial thing, because we talk about multiculturalism as being this, as Australia being a multicultural country, and I don't think that's a wise direction for our country, because cultures have tensions between each other, and I think we need to have assimilation to the core values that Australia sees as important, which is where your citizenry comes in.
Well, you could sit here all day naming an example. You give an example because they have completely lost control, because they're incapable of. They shouldn't be in the job. We have no leadership in this country, whatever. None. You've got state premiers, 38 years of age. They've only just left school. And they're making these profound, or supposed to be. But to me, that if they come here, they speak our language, learn it. As a matter of fact, we provided provision for it, gave provision for it, and they just denied it because they let them.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, on the boat, back you go, you were supposed to be doing it. And you lift the stage, but we tried to nurse them and don't upset them. And a very controversial one, and it's got to do with the Aboriginals. It's got nothing to do with the Aboriginal, because I know I've had Aboriginals work for me. I've had Aboriginals in my home, and they're bloody nice people.
Yeah, it's
the activists that's behind them. And now, for instance, you go to university, and this I heard stated absolutely. I've seen it in plenty of other instances, but if they put on what it's always been on the papers, are you Aboriginal and all that. They don't. Now, if they say yes, they don't have to prove it. You're not allowed to ask them what makes you an Aboriginal. And that's what's causing all this trouble. They're using the activists are using every intent to divide the country, and we haven't got a leadership strong enough to stop it. And that's where our trouble is.
I think we do have leaders in the system like Jacinta Price, who is working really hard to correct the system in terms of this, what do they call it? The cult, virtue signalling, the ideological signalling, trying to get people just to get the vote in, just to tell you I'm going to do stuff for you, so you get me the vote in, and then they don't follow through, or it's pittance to what they actually said they were going to do.
Well, they left it wide open. This is only one instance of many. But they've got. I had a fellow on the air the other night, Andrew Bolt, of these newly discovered Aboriginals who are professors in the university. They're getting positions. Yeah. And they got no bloodlines whatever to do with the Aboriginals. It's not the Aboriginals. I played a bowl tournament up at this was the best one I've had, was in the north coast, just up from in the mountains up off Nambucca Head. Anyhow, there's a little town there, and it's all Aboriginal, and the kids were playing in the street. The all Aboriginal kids said, and I love to get them. And we got into it, and they were playing football. And I said, there you go, who's Aboriginal? They named this Aboriginal. I named another Aboriginal from another team. Yeah. Out of St George. Now those kids, what do you think? What I could say to them, he scored so many tries there and he scored a try there. The kids listen, and they're sparkling eyes. They're not interested in this activist business, but they're the ones they're poisoning their mind. It's got nothing to do with those kids. And those people. They are genuine people. You can sit down and talk to them, but they're not the ones. They got these activists running around, stirring them up all the time. And it's into our education system. They get the kids, ordinary, not ordinary, kids of every other race. If you're not Aboriginal, if you're not First Nations, you have to be sorry, even though they haven't done anything. I'm not sorry for anything. I'm not sorry. That's what I object to that. But they've let it happen. Yeah. It's got nothing to do with these blokes. Like, you talk to them, and the blokes, they don't know what you're talking about. Because it's not them. Anyhow, it all comes to one thing: leadership. We haven't got leadership. Yeah. We haven't got somebody in charge. We haven't got somebody coming along saying, no, this is what you do. Well, even if you make a mistake, even if they make a mistake, that's the way they run. That's the only way to run the business. Yeah. Anyhow, right.
We cater to the victims today, to the victim mentality.
You go into court. There's a good example. You go into court, and I used to go to courts a lot. And when a case opens, say a murder case, just for example. Yeah. Okay. Well, before the case, when the case starts, before they get down to, the judge outlines what the case, or he gets the barristers for and again. They outline the case. Yeah. And then the judge addresses when he addresses the jury, and they say the last words was always, that any doubt must be given to the defendant, not the victim.
Mm.
The victim doesn't come into the case.
Yeah.
They're not allowed to discuss what the victim went through or something like that. And it's all the way through like that. As you say, they're stirring the pot.
Yeah. That's
Anyhow,
it. And it's
we hope it's
an erosion of on our systems, isn't it?
Yeah.
On our traditional systems that we have here in Australia. Yeah. And a part of that, would you say it was because of, and I think Anthony Albanese has been also trained by these people, but you gave this World Economic Forum, and I'll pull it up for the people on the podcast as well, so they can see what you gave this to my mother, and you actually ticked off many of the things on this list,
which is actually happening, like,
and you can see it happening.
Radical assisted suicide and abortion laws.
I mean, we do have assisted suicide coming into Australia more and more. I think at the moment our abortion laws have not changed that much, but you can see it happening drastically in America.
A radical assisted suicide and abortion. Well, it's so wrong. But we don't get to say. The worst thing in this country is our voting system. Preferential treatment. Preferential voting. You'll never, ever get the right people.
Yeah.
How can a person's vote be counted 4 times?
I agree.
And that's where do you know any other organisation anywhere who uses preferential voting? Only a politician.
Yeah.
Only in Australia.
And
New Zealand's worse.
It's I think the worst thing about our government is that, and I think it's happening more and more. But like, the more they fail, they go, well, we need more money because we failed, and so they just tax the populace more, and so they're just taking from the people, and we have no say in it. I feel like, especially now growing up, we have no say in how much money they print or anything like that. So that's another tax on us because our money is worth less.
But now it's even worse. I used to be in the Labor Party. I'll tell you the story very quickly. When I was a young bloke, and I was just after the war, I was married. I was living in Cabramatta, and of course I'm looking to make progress in the world, in the business world, manufacturing world. I wasn't going back in the public service. I was in the engineering place, and I liked what I was doing. I liked that. So I ran into a girl who used to go to school with, well, at the same time, co-ed school, on dead set against co-ed education, dead set. Anyhow, she married this fellow, and I met her at Cabramatta. She lived in Cabramatta. I met her down the street, and we sort of spoke about, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm looking for, like, there was no Toastmasters or anything those days. So I'm looking for some organisation, you know, where you have a debating.
Yeah.
So her husband said, oh, well, he was a prosecutor for the taxation department.
Yeah.
So, oh, yeah, he said, yeah. He said, well, I had the same idea. He said, so you join a political party, and that's where you get a chance to express opinions, hear opinions. And I thought, that's all right. He said, well, you're up here at Cabramatta. Well, Cabramatta was what was called a depression area during the Depression.
Yeah.
That is, people were allowed to live in tents.
Yeah, okay.
So they were very poor people. And there was a lot of them. Anyhow, he said, so up here, you might as well, like, Labor Party, you'll never get the Labor Party out up here because these people all suffered through the Depression. So join the Labor Party. And at the time was, if one of the benefits of being a member, an election come along, you want to stand for the Labor Party in the electorate, you want to stand there, okay, you get passed as acceptable person. So you come to the monthly meeting of the branches, you put your point of view forward, then the members of all the branches in that electorate would have a vote. Say, okay, I vote for Jack Waller. Can't do that now.
No.
The people in the back room, even in council, if you live around this area, you'll know that our council was they're all before the ICAC at the moment for corruption. The Liberal Party just said all those people representing the Liberal Party, including the mayor, who was well thought of, she was a woman, well thought of.
Lives in my parents' street. She lived in my parents' street.
Did she?
Yeah.
Can't stand. They're dictating who's good. You have no say whatever. They took the right off you. That's why me and hundreds of thousands of other people pulled out of the Labor Party. Yeah. When they took the right of us to vote, they took the right to vote. So we have no say. And I'll tell you another one too on the Labor Party. If you're not a member of the union, you can't stand for them.
Yeah. So I feel like there's less and less encouragement for people to be involved in their local government.
It's not freedom of mind. It's not freedom of mind. I mean, you've got these parties, even the Liberal Party, left wing, right wing, middle. I mean, we all don't have the same point of view, but if we have the same backline to work through, or the same path to go down, at the different parts, you can be on different parts of the road, but boy, you're not on the road next door. Yeah. Anyhow.
Well, that's the problem with our politics today, is that they're so polarised that if you vote for one party and not the other, we can't be friends. Like that's another thing about it.
But even in the party, if you vote, if I don't vote for you, you're out. I'm out.
Yeah.
It's so fragmented. So they've got control of one group. It's like this. One group's got control.
It's like the club, isn't it? A very exclusive club.
Absolutely. It once you, if you're in, you're in. But if you're out, you're out. There's no mucking about.
And they're talking about that, and they're talking about not just censorship these days, but even if you're critical of the government, they want it to be able to report you to ASIO or the federal police, and they're taking away the rights to actually to speak and be critical of our government. If we don't have anyone critical of the government,
so your government's
checks and balances that
your government's as good as the opposition. If you haven't got a good opposition, you haven't got a good government. That's for sure. But it's that's how Hitler. History repeats itself because people either forget what made it or are not interested. But that's why it repeats. But Hitler, before the war, you used to see we used to have newsreels. There was no trouble, and you'd see newsreels from things from around the world, you know. Yeah. And Hitler, when he took over as Chancellor in Germany, they took and Japan did it too after the Second World War. Yeah. All the school books out and burned them, and put their own school books in, and these people are doing the same thing. Yeah. Only they're not taking the street and they're doing it in front of your eyes.
They just take it off the shelf, so you can't actually see it.
And also,
this attack against.
It was Hitler who introduced that the kids, if you hear mum or dad talking against the government, you tell your school teacher.
Yeah, it's this separation of the family even more. Like
They're
it's happening
fragmented.
these days as well. They tell kids they tell kids they've got protections from their family if they disclose things to school.
I used to, a friend of mine's daughter's a school teacher. Those days, the school teacher used to have to go to Wagga, and they did the course together. And she lived in Goulburn, but my mate lived in Sydney, so the daughter in the school qualified, and they got appointed to Sydney schools, and the one from Goulburn was appointed to Cabramatta West. And we had an empty room at our house because Paul was in the army.
Yeah.
So this bloke knew that. He said, listen, she's from the country, never been out of Goulburn, and she's been appointed to Cabramatta East. So it's only like the train stop from Merrylands up to Cabramatta. To help her get her custard, could she board with you for a period of time?
Yeah.
Which we did do. We said, oh yeah, well that's fair enough. It's only for a few months, and give her a support. And she used to come up and tell us the tale of the kids, the innocent kids, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
But they're taking the innocence off the kids now, and they're teaching 4 years of age, sex gender.
That's it.
4 years of age.
The statistic on it is very scary. Boys, 8 years, 50% of them are exposed to hardcore pornography.
Yeah.
And it's
I
really,
find that
really
sickening.
sad, sick. And I actually think pornography is one of the biggest things that are affecting our world.
I didn't realise how much it's grown. I could never ever tolerate. Never ever.
Well, it's because of those the devices that we all have on us now, the smart computers with us, and they give them to kids very, very young, but there's no controls on them, and you're giving them the database to the world, and what can the world show them? Anything it wants.
Yeah.
And at the moment, people are pushing depraved things because that's who they are.
I think it's. I just go way back, and so when a young bloke, you respected the girl. Unlike science attract.
Yeah.
Electricity, algebra, mathematics, physics, and human life.
Yeah.
But we said kids, but you run around the girls. There was none of this kind of thing around. You just she's my girlfriend now, but there was nothing like these. These kids know more. Apparently there's 6, 7, 8 than I ever knew when I was married. When I got married, I had no idea what these blokes are talking about.
Yeah.
But pornography is something that I think anybody who looks, they're sick.
Yeah, and it's a trap, and people get trapped in it. I was trapped in it as a teenager, and I had to go through. I went through a course to actually get out of it because I was probably addicted, and it turned into just like people get addicted to alcohol. Pornography is no different, and it changed my life getting away from it.
That's what I'm talking about. The kids are being brainwashed.
Yeah.
And it's a big problem. And it's not the kids, before the kids know it, like, I just cannot believe. Anyhow, we were...
It's a tough world. It's
not the world I grew up in.
Well, in saying that, what do you think we should be doing moving forward then to course correct? So, me and my friends, we're very active in terms of trying to change people's minds, but it's also it feels like an uphill battle. And do you have any advice for us moving? Like, what do you think Australians should do moving forward? Do you have any advice, particularly for us young Australians, but even just Australians in the broader sense? What would be your warning, advice, comments on where we should be heading?
Well, I just believe that Christianity, we're a Christian world. I'm not a religious fanatic, but I believe in a greater power. I believe in anything that creates good, like Christmas. They say, do away with Christmas. I don't go to church through the year. But at Christmas time, I acknowledge what Christmas time is for. I acknowledge what Easter's for. You bring back the decent thinking, that respect, pride in yourself, respect for everybody else, accept responsibility for your own actions.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. Agency.
Yeah, and there's always accidents, and you'll always have run-ins, but God, they are so intolerant to anybody else's point of view.
Yeah.
It just bewilders me how I cannot believe that we are accepting this business of electricity, solar heating. I worked in solar heating in 1972. Solar heating, Australia invented flat plate solar heating, low temperature solar heating panels. They were never ever meant to run a big machine or run a factory. They were run, solar heating was brought in for the hot water system in your own home, you know. I don't know what happened, but now they're all coming from China. We're not making any. China's
when we had the ability to manufacture everything here and build, Australia has the most resources in the world, natural resources. We could be world leaders in manufacturing and whatnot. But
we are a gold. We are a gold, floating gold, highest, purest uranium. Not allowed to use it. Nickel, even nickel now. They're closing down the activists. Have got it's on Aboriginal land. They can't. Aluminium. So we haven't got an aluminium company.
Yeah.
There used to be Australian aluminium here in Granville, Camalco up at Villawood. Like, we don't make. We got the highest, a high quality bauxite in the world. Not allowed to use it. Liquid gas. We are, or coal. We have unbelievable, and the same as liquid gas. But this government have allowed them to sign a contract with the liquid gas to Japan and these other countries. And now we want to use, they haven't put any aside for us.
No, they just sell it overseas, let them use up everything, and let their carbon go into the atmosphere, even though, and we're getting all the solar panels from that.
But we're short of electricity, so we're buying the gas back at a higher price than it was.
That's it.
It is. You couldn't dream it. If you went to bed and had a dream, you couldn't dream that we have the greatest resources of electrical power in this country, and we're not allowed to. Yet every other country in the world's building them like uranium. We're not allowed to use it. And we're using this propellers. Do you know how much it cost us? We ran out of electricity in New South Wales last Thursday morning. And so they have to buy it off Queensland. Yeah. Which costs $17,000 for 1 kilowatt hour. Wow. We paid 450 times dearer than our electric. And Chinese are building 250 extra
coal-fired plants.
No, nuclear.
Nuclear plants.
Yeah, and we're
not using coal-fired plants to offset that while they're building it.
You've got to. Anyhow, so look, and it's you'll never solve it until you get this business of this world organisation.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing that happened.
So for people my age, feeling powerless.
Yeah, because you've got no say in it.
You've got no say. What would your advice to let's say just me? What would your advice to me be? I'm trying to do my part in trying to get the conversation happening, but
so like a lot of people are giving up in despair. A lot of people in my group they're giving up in despair because they've been brainwashed by this romp, and why are we going to get in the world? Why are we with our maximum amount of CO2, where I don't know where they got all this rubbish from. That's going to stop the world. Our maximum output was 1.7. Infinitesimal amount. China's 45%, and India's 40-odd%. 1%, and we're giving our standard a way of life away.
That's why I can't afford a home. That's why I can't afford a home.
That is. I reckon our politicians and some of our business people should be in jail.
Yeah.
It's not possible. I'm the only one of my family living in the metropolitan area.
Yeah.
My brother's wife is alive. She's over black but my 3 grandsons, 2 of them live in Brisbane, 1 lives in Adelaide. My granddaughter lives in Brisbane. My nieces and nephew live in Brisbane. My daughter lives in Nelson Bay. My son lives in Canberra. I'm the only one in the metropolitan area.
It's very expensive in this area too.
They're paying $1 million for a block of land. Never mind about the house.
Yeah.
And they're pulling it down, and have a look at
putting up. Yeah.
Where's the money coming from?
Well, but the rates that were so low before allowed people to borrow obscene amounts and yeah.
Look, it's obscene. The point is, nobody should have been allowed to come into this country and buy land.
Yeah, or we shouldn't sell off our assets to international parties.
Nobody. When my son first joined the police, federal police, they're based in ACT. You couldn't buy a block of land in Canberra unless you built a house within 18 months.
Yeah.
And you had to live in to get it.
Yeah.
We're allowing these Asians to come out. All these, not only Asians, any country, with money that black, a lot of it's black. It's crooked money, a lot of it. And they're allowed to. They can't speak English yet. They go to auction sales and they're buying all our land up, and our own kids can't. You couldn't dream it. We're in such a mess.
Not just.
We want another war. Another war might help it out. Although
we're very close to that, aren't we?
Yeah, but where do we go?
Yeah.
When we was at war last time,
only one group had the.
Everybody had to be accountable. When the war broke out, I'm telling you, around when Italy came in, around come the gendarmes with their to all the fruit shops, the Italian fruit shops, boom, they wanted to, if they weren't Australian citizen, they put in straight away. Not in concentration, what do you call them? Anyhow, they put in the camps. They've taken out, and we always said we was fighting the Japanese, so you knew, if you walked down the street and you saw these blokes coming up Japanese, you'd say, well, these blokes are not with us. But now, you've got more Arabs than you've got Australian boys.
Yeah, the multiculturalism of our Western world really makes it hard to
It's been taken over by the Arabs.
to know who's on. Everyone's got their own agendas that they're now pushing, right?
Oh yeah, but the Arabs have got. So that whoever thought Arabs would be running England, be a prime minister? Whoever thought?
The rights.
But I'll tell you one thing I forgot to tell you, which should be recorded. During the war, I told you we were caught with our pants down. We didn't manufacture cars. We didn't manufacture planes. We started up our own factories.
In World War II.
That's what I was. I was sent down there. 1 year bloody chemistry. Sent down to this place. We had to start from the ground up.
We're gonna have to do that.
And I'll tell you, when I told you, my brother, when he joined there, they had the broomstick handles because any guns we had they sent to England, we were not manufacturing it. And cars were the same. We didn't make cars, so there was no trucks. And I told you they ground on the ground, just drew the outline of a
vehicle. To embark, disembark.
And we had no motor vehicles. So when the war finished, Ben Chifley, and he was a Labor Prime Minister, he said, "This will never happen to Australia again. We will start our own automotive company." So he sent an offer out to the big motor companies, sent General Motors, Ford, British Motors, to start up a plant. And the only one that General Motors took it up.
Yeah.
So thus the Holden was built.
Yeah.
Now when they built the Holden, one of the sales appeal of it was, if you run out of a part, you can pull into Woolworths in Bathurst or somewhere and you can buy the part. And that was the stream. Today, we haven't got one car manufacturer in the country.
Oh, not just that. We don't manufacture a lot of things here.
I know.
The thing we manufacture, I guess, is food.
Well, that's what I said. That's why I said history repeats itself because people forget what. Ben Chifley said this would never happen to Australia again.
Too bad he can't control the future politicians in his own party.
No, politics. Because of our shocking political quality of our politics. Because I've resisted and I've tried to set the people, vote. Don't take any notice of these people. Don't vote for them. Vote for. So now we got that backfired a bit because the Greens they were an independent group. They weren't. They were a German formation. The Germans are behind them. But I haven't voted for Labor or in the federal or state elections. I haven't voted for either party for years.
Yeah.
I put on, and now last year or this year, the council when they took over, they've even taken the council over, taking your right to nominate who you want to stand, or the right to have a say in where you get. Yeah. But what did they said? Oh yeah, but you still get a vote. You get a vote, but you're only voting for who they're telling you to vote for.
Yeah.
And this bloke here, Jack Lang, he said in one of the big parliament, he was in controversial political debate. They forced him out of government and shut him down, and that book tells you how they did it. And so after the people realised how they'd been fooled by these, they held a political meeting in Centennial Park, which at that time was the biggest political meetings held in Australia. That's what they said. And they said to him, like, they'd do anything to get rid of the government, anything, give us guns. He said, I gave you pencils and you couldn't use them, so why would I give you guns? Council was never political.
No, it was supposed to be small communities looking after
That's right. the Senate and in the federal parliament, the Senate and the House were supposed to be. The Senate was supposed to be there as a referee, but they made it political.
Yeah.
So they've manoeuvred around and taken all the power off the people.
That's it. It feels what they call blackpilling. It feels very hopeless, and I mean we do feel challenged by this, and that's why we've started this.
You've got to fight.
We got to take it back. We've got to take back our culture. We need to.
That's right. But you've got to.
We need to see men, strong men, come back and.
But you see, another thing that makes that difficult is the law was if you owned a television station, you couldn't own a newspaper, or if you owned a television, you could only have one newspaper. Bob Hawke changed it, and I had the book, and I gave it away. But the first year Bob Hawke was Prime Minister of Australia, Kerry Packer assets improved from $100 million to $200 million. Now it's billions, but at that time he doubled his asset in 1 year. Because he had the radio, he bought they changed the law that you could like Rupert Murdoch. They claimed he has too much power because he owns too many newspapers. They allowed it.
Yeah.
And that's so a lot of the stuff that's happening now is not being reported.
No, see, I don't know about Australia, but I know people are finding less and less trust in the mainstream media, and so they should, because I think
you can't believe it.
They're all pushing agendas.
That
is anti-Australian. That's anti.
That's right. They've allowed
Christian.
Yeah, we've got Channel 9. Own Channel 9. They own 2GB. They own 2UE. They own 4BR. Something in Brisbane. Own him. Like, it's just not right.
These monopolies, and I think you might see some. Hopefully, we see some change in the future, because one of the biggest monopolies in the world, Google, has actually lost a lawsuit there. So we'll be watching that with both eyes open, seeing what happens, because that could change the game.
See, that's this to me the greatest invention of all time. I don't care. They could put any there's nothing like reproduction, whether it's human, flowers, animals. I've just had a great grandson born, and he's got a nose and ears all in the same place as if he had been born in London, and and all his organs are the same, and with all the millions that have been born, they don't make many rejects. They have a few rejects.
Yeah.
But
a miracle of creation.
But nothing, to me, nothing surpasses reproduction is not. And then the next thing, of course, this going sending spaceships into space, sending outer space, sending. They got one on the way. They finally got through the black. Was it the black spot? So now they can get back and see how the world was made. What power
humanity has done amazing things, right? And we sell it all down the river. We're not innovating. We're not moving forward. No. We seem to be regressing instead of progressing. This whole progressive agenda is actually really regressive.
Well, it's like man is such like. That's what I think, and I cannot believe that normal people accept this government's ruling that we've got to do away with coal.
Well, I think the majority of Australia, if they actually had a say, you'll be surprised, like we were surprised with the yes/no vote, that majority of Australians didn't see.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Mm.
You can't live without carbon dioxide.
Yeah, it's food for our plants. More carbon dioxide actually means more yield for our food, which means more people can live. It's not this anti-human.
But you won't have any
rhetoric that's going.
But you won't have any plants if you haven't got carbon dioxide.
That's right.
But it's I heard a fellow up in the bowling club was up there yesterday. He's flogging indoor plants. The plant. I said, well, and the secretary was with the secretary, and I said, well, that looks nice, takes a bit of bareness out of the flower. And then the conversation went on for a while, and then I said, it's strange. Years ago, they wouldn't allow you to take flowers into a hospital ward overnight. If you took flowers in, they'd take them out and the fellow said, oh, yeah. And I said, well, what is that? And I said, well, they absorb the oxygen, yeah. Okay. And he said, oh no, he said, that's what the oxygen makes the plant. I didn't go into it.
Yeah.
It's not the oxygen, it's the carbon dioxide, and it releases the oxygen. So when you pass a tree and the wind's blowing, you get a cool. That's the oxygen coming out. But this bloke's got it up upside down, but I didn't say that. I didn't want to pursue that. But that's right.
You've got to pick your battles.
That's where you get your oxygen. It comes released from the carbon dioxide, goes into the ground, into the plants, and it comes out as the oxygen. And that's what you're breathing.
Well, wasn't it was it the 60s or 70s, they were actually saying that we were heading towards another ice age?
Well, I've been saying that for a long time.
Well, they say now we're heading to overheating.
But that's the point.
Because of the industrial age where we actually released a lot of carbon dioxide that we're actually better off than what we were.
Well, we have to be better off.
Yeah. Well,
but
we're all here, aren't we?
I've got a book over there that everybody should read. Unfortunately, I've got it too late in life, and I can't absorb. I've got to read chapters over and over again before I get it.
Yeah.
But it's a book. One of my grandsons gave me. I thought, gee, you should read this yourself. When I got into it, I thought this is a bit too deep for me. But by reading back over it, I really, really.
Well, at the end of this, do you want to give me a list of books, and I'll put it up on our on the description of your recommendations for reading.
Mine, I'd like you to read this one.
Yeah.
This was Jack Legge. He's the one, and tell you like the turbulent years, the Enforcement Act. This is when as I told you, the government to pay the public servants. The government went to the bank.
Yeah.
They got the money and paid the public servants. Well, the federal, and there used to be two different taxations. When I first started work, you didn't pay your taxation each week by money.
Yeah.
You got stamp. You got stamps back.
Yeah.
If it was $5, if you paid £3 tax, well, you got a £3 tax, and you have to keep the stamps.
Yeah.
So anyhow, the government got together and said, look, we'll get over this and we'll do the taxation to save all having your own taxation, the state taxation. We'll do it all and we'll hand it back.
Yeah.
And of course, what happens? They get it, and instead of handing them back, like with the GST, the amount of GST that New South Wales paid, they don't give it back.
No.
They give half it to Tasmania and half to the, So, but anyhow, the federal government, they had to do the same. So the government wanted to take the whole lot over and make themselves a bit. They could
make them richer.
That's right.
It's all about control
So
and power, right?
they brought in a law in federal parliament that the banks weren't allowed to, the state governments weren't, the banks weren't allowed to pay the state government,
Yeah.
and that's how they shut him down.
Yeah.
People went to work one day, went up the bank to go to the bank book, the banks are all closed. And that's a chapter there. I marked it there.
Well, I'll write all these books that you've suggested in the description, so our audience can go and read them themselves. So I would love to. We've been going on for a while, and let's wrap up. What would be your final thing you would like to say to the Australian people, or even the world? This could go everywhere. What would be your advice, having been alive so many years?
Bring back democracy, bring back Christian life, bring back Christian values, not going to church every day, but Christian values, what they say, and respect for the family, the Christian family life. Yeah. We were so happy.
Yeah. Well, Jack, it's been a pleasure, and I thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
I'm sorry, I was a bit fragmented.
No, you're completely fine. Thank you so much.